A lot can happen in a week. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Mary Flood, legal consultant with Androvet Legal Media and Marketing, Marcus Davis, owner of the Breakfast Club restaurant, and Marco Roberts, chairman of the Texas Conservative Liberty Forum. Mary, Marcus, Marco, welcome to Houston Matters.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Panel, Election Day was largely a good one for Elon Musk, the tech billionaire behind SpaceX, Tesla, the former Twitter, now X, and a PAC that spent a lot of money on behalf of former President Trump, stands to exert influence in the new administration. Tuesday was not, however, necessarily his finest hour on his social media platform, where he promoted a conspiracy theory that Google was trying to send Trump voters away from polls and Harris supporters towards them through search results. The evidence that searching Google for "where can I vote for Harris" led to a map of polling locations, but "where can I vote for Trump" led to news articles. After raising attention about it, Musk received an explanation from Google that, quote, "Harris is also the name of a county in Texas," you know, the one where Houston's located. And Google noted that the same thing would happen if you searched for "where can I vote for Vance," because Vance is also the name of a county. While wary Trump supporters noted on X-Twitter that Google was a heavy contributor to the Harris campaign, as Cron Culture editor Abigail Rosenthal reported, Musk replied with a simple "thanks for the clarification." By the way, Musk voted in Cameron County, less than 400 miles from Harris County. Elon Musk learns on Election Day, I suppose, that, Harris County exists. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Marcus Davis.
Marcus was waiting to hear from Mary. I'm speechless. I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's good, bad, or ugly, simply because of the ugliness that surrounded, the last few months, weeks, days. So I don't know that it can be anything other than ugly because of the ugliness that we've been experiencing here as a city, state, and as a nation. It's unfortunate that, first of all, it's unfortunate that, Musk is unaware of the greatest county in the state of Texas and that he's unaware that the greatest city in the state of Texas is in Harris County. So I guess there is light at the end of the tunnel. Now he knows where Houston is. I did find it interesting that the man who can pinpoint where rockets should go and where it should land has no idea where Harris County is. I just found that to be a little bit ironic.
And I guess you've sussed this out, that there is a degree of facetiousness to the idea that he doesn't know where Harris County is or what Harris County is, but just the fact that he didn't quite make that connection between a Google search for voting in Harris.
With Elon Musk, I never know. No one ever knows. Half the time, I don't know if he even knows.
All right, good, bad, or ugly.
That's not to say anything negative. I'm just he's a peculiar person, okay. Right? He's a very peculiar person. As successful as he is an entrepreneur, he's a very peculiar person.
Good, bad, or ugly, Marco Roberts.
I think there's a little bit of ugly, but mostly good. All right. I think that, and I think this goes for both sides, that right now in the world that we live in, there's a lot of this distrust of the media, the experts, and a lot of people, and I see this on both sides, where they start forwarding things that have no basis in fact. But I look at the larger picture of this whole thing, and actually it's pretty good because this played out the way it should have, which is he says something, and it's immediately clarified. And now it turns out to be more embarrassing to him, which I think all of us, if we're embarrassed, we kind of hope that, maybe this will get me to be a bit more careful in the future. And I think that, to his credit, I mean, I definitely admire Elon Musk, and I'm happy that he's taken over what is now X, because I can tell you when I was I refused to use Twitter because so many of my posts or attempted posts would not go through. Now, I think I'm a pretty careful person in my words. You are. And yet still, many times it would say your comment goes against community standards. I'm going, what did I say? And of course, you would never know what it was. So I appreciate the new openness, even if some folks don't like it. But I also think, instead of just deleting the tweet, he just said, okay, I'm putting the correction and I'm just saying thanks for the clarification. But I think it's an advice for all of us also as well that, okay, every time someone sends you something, check it out. I get a lot of these things. People, is this true? Is this really going to happen? And I look at it. Sometimes it looks like, oh, it's delicious. Wouldn't it be great because it'd be a great story? But then you look at it and no, that's not actually true. And I get that obviously mostly for people who want to say nasty things about Democrats. But I know it happens on the other side as well. So I think the story resolved itself well. And to be fair, Google does have a reputation of lately having a few issues with the algorithms that were suspect. There was the issue of the suppression of the assassination picture of the search. And Google came and did say, hey, it was an error. We fixed these things. Mark Zuckerberg, same thing, apologized for it. So it's not like it's operating in a vacuum. But I think the good news is we're all seeing it. It's all being resolved in front of all of us, and that's good news.
We all do have to be, don't we, a lot better at sussing out what is put in front of us in the social media world and whether there is any truth to it before we reflexively share it or comment on it.
I always, the big tell for me is when someone sends something to me without a link. It's just like, okay, where does this come from, right? There's no quote. It's just, oh, look at this. Like, okay, but where does it come from?
And then there's AI and goodness knows with images what we're actually looking at. But I digress. Good, bad, or ugly? Mary Flood.
I'm going with ugly, and since it's Elon Musk, creepy too. I can't unhear him saying, Taylor Swift, I will give you a child. Oh, geez.
I didn't hear that.
Oh, it's really disgusting. He's a frequent poster of falsehoods, from COVID to Pelosi's husband getting attacked to saying that Jews are collecting Christians' blood for rituals. But reposting lies has practically become like an American pastime now. Maybe it's passing baseball. Trump gleefully parrots falsehoods all the time, including that carnivorous Haitians are eating our pets. A smart friend of mine on Facebook posted a falsehood after Trump got grazed by the bullet. And I sent her something showing that story was false, and she never took it down. And she's a smart person. And I do give some grace to Musk on this for two reasons. One, the Harris County Democratic Party put out some swag and some signs that said, "We are Harris County." And they meant it to be about Kamala, but I didn't get that it was about Kamala. And I thought, why are they doing that? And two, I've lived in Texas for more than 40 years, and there are 254 counties, and I probably don't even know most of them. And there's just so many more things to make fun of Musk for. So,
just to be fair, though, I think that we do ourselves credit if we point out the falsehoods that are coming out on both sides. And yes, I think, obviously Trump said the thing, but Biden, repeatedly, constantly said that Trump said that Nazis were good people. And clearly he didn't say that. And I think that's been said over and over.
No, it was white supremacists.
Yeah, and he did not say that. And so the quote, it was...
I disagree.
In following Charlottesville, he did say
there were very fine people on
very
both sides.
fine people
yes, and
on
the
both
full
sides.
and the full quote though says, "I am not talking about white supremacists or Nazis." That's the full quote, and I think people need to look at the full quote when he says specifically, "I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people," which was the context that were supporting the maintaining of the statue. So the whole, if you read the whole quote, it does say the second part, which is, "I am not talking about the white supremacists." So I don't know how you can be more clear than that. So yeah, I'm just
I sense we haven't been able to solve the divide.
I really like
politically.
Marco, but we don't agree on everything, and we already knew that.
I do agree that the state of our nation, the behavior that we have of being very loose with information and the passing of information. I've experienced what both of you have described, which is someone receiving something, posting it, receiving it and running with it, or posting it, and then even when you get the correction, I too have, inboxed a friend and said, "Hey man, you're too smart a guy to these aren't facts," and I think we've become a very loose and irresponsible nation with regard to social media and with regard to information based on our tribalism, and it's really unfortunate. But the media has played a big part in it as well, and they've led the way in this. So that's where the ugly comes in for me, because we're itching to find something bad about the other side versus itching to find something good about the other side, and maybe the concept of the other side is problematic in and of itself.
Well, I think we all agree on that, right? And I think that the So the first challenge always is, I think for all of us, is always to say, can you find something good to say about the other side? Why would somebody vote for Harris? I can tell you things why people voted for Harris that I respect and I think are legitimate. And I think we should practice that. It doesn't mean you have to agree with the choice. I didn't vote for her. But I think that's the first step. And if you can't find your way to say, look, I don't agree with that at all, but I can understand at least some of your reasons. And you can do that, then we're part of the way there.
Yeah, but we're not. I'm just being realistic as where we are in this nation. It's unfortunate. I'd like us to be better, but we're not better.
No, but each one of us counts.
Yeah.
Everything you do yourself, everybody counts.
Yes.
It's the good, the bad, and the ugly of the week today with Marcus Davis, Marco Roberts, and Mary Flood. We'll have more as Houston Matters continues. This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. We're in the middle of another installment of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Today with Marco Roberts, Mary Flood, and Marcus Davis. Panel, there are rules we should all live by or society crumbles, like don't rip the tags off of mattresses, don't come up with another use of the descriptions and accounts of a Major League Baseball game without the expressed written consent of the commissioner. And
Nice.
crucially, return those overdue library books. Back in 1973, somebody checked out the only copy the Worcester Public Library in Massachusetts had of the early work of Aubrey Beardsley and never returned it. Beardsley, in case you're wondering, was a 19th century English illustrator and author famous for black ink drawings characterized as often grotesque, decadent, or erotic. In other words, there was probably some pretty cool stuff to check out in the long-lost book. But fear not, it has been found. Someone walked into the Cambridge Public Library with it, and as Sarah Barnacle of the Worcester Telegram and Gazette reported this week, it's now back at the Worcester Library just 51 years late. And as luck would have it, the Worcester Library no longer charges overdue book fines. So no harm, no foul, just no book for more than half a century. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Marco.
Oh, I think it's good. I think, it's a happy story. It's actually, there's a couple of elements to this. One part, just personally for myself, I've always been a very rules-based person. And it took me a while as I grew older to kind of like, sometimes you got to just loosen up a little. And you don't have to follow every single rule. And there are sometimes circumstances where you don't need to enforce it so strictly, right? So that's my personality. It's always been that way. And I'm that guy, seriously, for a long time. I wouldn't even take those tags off the mattresses. I was just like,
I still don't.
Remove it.
I don't.
But, so I'll just say that. But I think it's, what's interesting is that I started looking about this, and there's other books that have been out longer. I don't know if you saw that. Some as long as 100 years, right? I think the New York Times just actually, I think it was just recently put out a story about a book that had been out over 100 years. But it's a common story. It's happened in England. It's happened everywhere else. So people keep looking in there. Somebody passes away, and there's a book that somebody finds.
I wonder how many of them are erotic art like this was.
Well, I wasn't focused on that part of the story. Okay, Mary. But what's interesting in one of the cases, though, the book had been checked out while the library had burned down. And so it's one of the few books that survived precisely because it had not been returned.
That's cool.
So you never know how things are going to turn out. So overall, I think it's a great story.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly. Mary.
I think it's good, and also congratulations on pronouncing Worcester correctly.
Oh, thank you.
Because they talk there about how many people get it wrong. And being a non-native, when I lived in the Boston area for 3 years, I also called it Worcester. But if you're a native, it's Worcester. Like park your car in Harvard Yard, where, of course, you can't park your car. But anyway, I thought it was really cool that this was returned, though they returned it, 44 miles away from where it was due. But Beardsley was really, an eccentric guy, and I started looking at some of his art, and there's a lot of unconscious women and male monsters, often with tails. It's really out there. So I looked at a picture of him, and he has what I would characterize as the worst haircut I've ever seen in the history of humanity. Now, maybe this was in the 1890s, and we do have the 80s on our side. But this reminds me that there was a Blockbuster video that I never returned. It got caught in my VCR and I could never get it out. And I wound up, it was a bad movie by Denzel Washington, which is shocking that even exists. It was called something, Virtuosity. But I gave it to Goodwill. I gave the VCR to Goodwill. So maybe someone who bought it and got it out of there will take it back to the one Blockbuster left in the country that's in Bend, Oregon.
You know what would be interesting is if they did, that would be a demonstration of virtuosity.
Whoa.
I would have said War Sister.
That's what a lot of people say.
Good, bad, or ugly, Marcus.
This is bad.
No.
This is bad. Bad because it brings up childhood memories of me shaking in my boots because my library book was late. Of me
Marcus.
thinking that this was
Really?
going to be a red mark on my
On your
permanent
record. That's right.
for the rest of my life.
Well, as a matter of fact, I have the paperwork right here.
This brought it. I read your when you sent the email. I read it and I immediately thought of Miss Livingston, the librarian at my elementary school, and then I just started crying, and I called my therapist and I said, we gotta talk. She said, I'm out of town. I said, I gotta see you now. Because so this is what it did for me, because I dreaded this idea of having something on my permanent record. And as a child, I dreaded growing up and having some opportunity to be, because when you're a kid, you want to be your heroes day, and I want to be Thurgood Marshall, but they're gonna find out that I had an overdue library book, and I have not paid that fine, which has now compounded interest day after day, year after year, and I'm gonna owe $80 gazillion.
I'm so glad, though, that you have such a vivid memory of
Yes,
this.
I do.
Because we do have Miss Livingston on the line
Oh,
now.
wow.
Oh boy.
And she's still waiting on an Encyclopedia Brown.
I was really good with the in-store library, the in-school library. It was the trip to the library, which was right outside the school, a few blocks up. That's the one that really got me, because, the day that you're taking the trip to the library, you have to remember to bring that book. And so, yes. And then the other part of me was thinking, hey, why return it now? Stay rebel. Stay, as they say.
That's very defiant.
Keep that same energy. Listen. I'm glad that they returned it. I'm glad there was no fine, that we're to speak of today. But it also got me to thinking that maybe that was a good thing, because between the library and my father, I was always taught to keep my credit clean, right? And I think the library has a lot to do with it. I didn't want that thing on my permanent record.
That's great.
I still want to know if it's on there now.
It is.
Panel, how much would you bid for a dime? Me, probably less than 10 cents, but then I might miss out on a rare U.S. dime missing its mint mark, and which has just been auctioned off for, wait for it, $506,250. The 1975 No S-Proof dime, which had been in an Ohio coin collector's family for nearly 50 years, received interest from more than 400 bidders, including serious collectors in several countries. As UPI's Ben Hooper reported this week, what sets this dime apart is that it is missing its S-Mint mark, which would signify it was minted in San Francisco. It is one of only 2 examples known to still exist. Great Collections handled the auction. Its president, Ian Russell, calls it the grail of modern coins. The winning bidder was not identified. Someone just spent $500,000 for a dime. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Mary.
I guess it's good. It's fascinating that a mistake would make something so much more valuable. Obviously, it has to be collectors and collectors mania that would do that. But boy, if my mistakes made things more valuable, I'd be an incredibly rich person, and I might not be coming by here today because I'd be too busy on my yacht, I guess. But I haven't collected a lot of things in my life, but I do collect flutes. I still have the one I played in high school that I take out every once in a while, and I use my Simon and Garfunkel sheet music. It's a time capsule. But my all over my house, I have wooden ones and metal ones and clay ones and ceramic ones, but I can play them. There's something I can do with them, and occasionally I do take the dust off and play some of them. I started to collect baseball bobbleheads, but when I got to about 24 of them, I realized I really didn't care at all about baseball bobbleheads, and started just at the, when you get them, when you walk into Minute Maid, if you're one of the first 10,000 fans, you get one, and I just later look on for a kid who didn't get one and give it to him. And I wondered whether a mistake in a baseball bobblehead would make it more worth more. And I checked with my significant other, the highly acclaimed sports writer David Barron, and he said that he actually wrote a story in 2011, or about in 2011, they made a bobblehead with Bill Brown and Jim DeShays. They were both telecasters of the Astros. And Brown got a couple dozen himself to give to friends and family, and he opened one of them, and it had 2 DeShayses, and he wasn't on there. And that's the only one that they know of that was wrong, and he actually gave it to DeShays, which was kind of nice.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly. Marcus.
I think this is a good thing. Although Mary does bring up a great point, of how a mistake can be, so valuable. But I think it's a good thing. I too have not been a collector, but I remember being a kid and hearing about collecting coins, and growing up in an area where you get the $50 and the silver dollar, the Susan B. Anthony, and you hold on to it and you think, man, this is going to be worth a lot in several years, even though it was still only worth $1 or $50. Years later. I don't know what the value is now, but the idea that the S being left off can make this worth $500,000, that's pretty peculiar. It makes me think that there should be a song written about it. I left my S in San Francisco.
Oh, God. Did you work on that last night?
I don't think so. I think that one just came to him.
I both acknowledge and support that groan.
I'm learning from Craig.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was very Craig-like.
Craig is the master.
I get my corn from the corn master.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly, Marco?
It's good. I mean, it's great that we have a world where things like these are possible. I would just say, for my part, that if I had that kind of money, and of course you have to have a lot of it, because it's not just having a couple of million. You'd have to have like so much that $500,000 isn't going to make a big difference. But even if I did, I still don't think I'd spend it on something so tiny, right? That you can't even if I did, I would buy something big, right? Something that anyone can see, and like a statue or something, I mean, that's what I would do. Sculpture or something. Maybe make my house really obnoxiously elaborate for the neighbors to see. Something. But that being said, it's actually, I was surprised to find out that really, when it comes to coins, it's not really even close to being anywhere with the most valuable coin. I think the most valuable coin is the August St. Gaudens 1933 Golden Double Eagle, going for $20 million. Wow. Can you imagine that?
This makes a lot of sense.
$20 million. But and looking at this, I'm not a coin aficionado, but as I started reading about this coin, it actually has a fascinating story about it. So if you guys would like to know about
the story of why the S is missing?
No, about the August St. Gaudens coin.
Expensive one.
It's got a whole history, and because $20 million, you could get 40 of these dimes for that, right? A much more beautiful coin, bigger, gold for real, but commissioned by Theodore Roosevelt, banned by Franklin Roosevelt, and
and it's FDR on the dime too. There's a Roosevelt theme.
But then it became illegal to own them, and only one of them survived through a legal loophole. So there's only one left, and that's what's happened. So It's interesting. It's a fascinating story. But on my part, if I had the money, you'd know it. You'd go into my house. Oh, there it is.
You could just imagine somebody purchasing this coin and then just having a hankering for a bag of chips in a vending machine.
No.
And absentmindedly just dropping that in. 10 more cents? Yeah, that's no problem. Oh, no!
But that's another point. You could lose this so easily. You just
Well, I assume it's encased in something.
Right.
Don't you think? You think he put it in his coin purse with his quarters collection?
Probably not. Yeah, it's a fair point.
Walks around and jiggling and changing in his pocket and
say
said,
he,
"Let
I'm
me
not
show
sure."
you something."
I know we're making an assumption that it
Yes.
was a
It
man.
was a family. Yeah, I don't know
But
if it was the. Yeah,
Let's be honest.
yeah.
Oh, boy.
I'd vote for a man on that too.
someone's going to
actually,
yank your license.
Mary Flood's a legal consultant with Androvet Legal Media and Marketing. Marcus Davis owns the Breakfast Club restaurant. Marco Roberts is chairman of the Texas Conservative Liberty Forum. Mary, Marcus, Marco, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.